Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Listen, I'm having a few tech issues. I'm wanting to know that you guys can hear me correctly. Sorry for the delay. I'm getting on here a couple minutes late. I promise I will make it up to you with the training today that we're going to talk about. I'm going to share my 4-part framework for starting and growing a highly profitable freight broker business. Let me know in the comments you can hear me and that the audio is clean, because for whatever reason, my mic is not showing up properly. I couldn't test it. And for some reason, I wanted to just double check and make sure you guys can hear me and that the audio is clear, right? I can see and test and see you guys can see me. But again, I apologize for this little tech issue. Seems like there's always something. Let me know that you guys can hear me all right. And I'll do some shout outs really quick and then we'll jump right in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some shout outs. Hit me up in the city and hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. We'll do some shout outs. Then we're going to jump into today's training and then we're going to do live Q&A at the end. Okay. So just hang with me here. I promise it'll be worth it. Welcome Betty Jones from Wilson, North Carolina. Welcome Carl from Bethlehem, Georgia. Welcome Gary from Texas. Welcome Scott from Plymouth Meeting, PA. Welcome Corey from Montana. Anthony from Moody, Texas. Welcome Cynthia, of course. Welcome Brian from Independence, Oregon. Renee, welcome. TMP Hustle from San Antonio. Welcome Rudy. Welcome David from St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome Monique from Orlando. Welcome Rudy from Texas. OP from Ethan, New Jersey. Welcome Rad Freight Brokerage from Mountain View, California. Awesome. 101 Lyrics 101 from Kentucky. Mr. Seamus from Miami. Ann Rose from Williamsburg, Virginia. Thank you. Oscar from Laredo. Johnny from Ripley, Mississippi. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Listen, I got a lot of notes to go over today. There's 2 full pages, okay? So what we're going to talk about today is my 4-part framework, the 4 M's of growing a highly successful business. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm just going to let a few more people get live. Hopefully the audio is good, so I don't have to reshoot this for the YouTube edit. But we're going to roll with it as is because you guys are here, so I'm ready to go. Grab a quick drink, and then we're going to get the show on the road. S-Man from Wichita, Kansas, welcome. So let me just quickly review my notes. Okay. Ricky, Oxnard, California. Welcome, buddy. Ricky is a part of my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, by the way, which is that 8-week live coaching program. That is where I teach and coach and mentor you on freight broker sales, how to get shippers. It's where a lot of people struggle. And so while you guys are waiting, if you guys are interested in getting on the wait list for that, you can check out that wait list, or you can get on that wait list absolutely free so that you get notified when new spots open up. Just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. You'll get an email or a text that will notify you when new spots open up. You'll get all the full details at that point. And then who knows, we might even get an opportunity to get on the call and see if we're a good fit to work together, either me or someone on my team. Okay. So that's where you get on the wait list. All right. Ricky Brown in the house from Greenville, South Carolina. Welcome, Ricky. Okay, so here we go. Really quick. Clear my throat and let's get this show on the road. We're gonna close this banner out. All right. When I started my freight brokerage back in 2003, I had 0 experience. You probably know more right now than I did when I first got started. The fact is, YouTube didn't even exist when I started my freight brokerage. All right. So today I'm going to share with you my 4-part framework. Okay. Basically, it's a roadmap to teach you how to go from no experience to growing a highly profitable freight broker business. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. So are you ready? All right, cool. Lean in, because here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump right in. Today, I'm going to teach you, and I'm teaching you again, the 4 M's. Okay. The 4 M's of building a highly successful business. So it's a step-by-step strategy that is designed to help you navigate and through the startup process all the way through scaling your business up to as much as $50 million plus per year in sales. Okay. So are you guys with me? You ready? All right, cool. So the first M is model. Okay. Because again, this is the 4 M's. So they all start with the letter M. The first M is model. Now in the modeling stage, this is where you need to find a mentor or a coach or somebody, another freight broker who's already done what you're looking to do. And the reason being is because they already have the experience of doing what you're looking to achieve, right? So they've already went through those hurdles and roadblocks and challenges and struggles. It doesn't make any sense to go out and model yourself after someone who's done $1 million or $2 million in their freight brokerage if you're looking to do 10 or 20 or $50 million in your freight brokerage. It's a different business. It's a different path. It's a different strategy that you need to get there. Okay. So in the first M, this is where you're gonna start modeling yourself. This is where you're gonna learn how to set up your freight brokerage with the FMCSA. This is where you're gonna learn the types of software that you need, like load boards and TMS and CRMs, things of that nature. This is where you're also gonna learn how to find and negotiate with shippers and with carriers, right? And this is where you're gonna start generating a little bit of business. This is where you're gonna start making a little bit of money, okay? And these are proven methods instead of you learning by trial and error. Okay. So I maybe jumped ahead a little bit there, but this is where you're going to learn those components. Okay. So these are proven methods, not trial and error. All right. So that's the first M, is modeling. All right. The second M is mimic. Okay. So when you're in the mimic stage, this is where you're going to take what you've learned and you're going to start applying it in a real business scenario. Things like reaching out to shippers and finding carriers and negotiating rates and doing freight quotes, vetting carriers, right? You're going to learn those components to the business, right? This is how you start to confidently execute on your business model. And this is where you start generating a little bit of cash flow, right? You get your first few shippers, you start moving some loads, right? This typically is a stage, this mimicking stage is somewhere usually between 1 and 6 months. Okay. That's typically where that mimicking stage falls. So this is where you take what you've learned in the modeling stage and then you mimic it and you put it into your real life business and you start executing. Okay. So mimic and execute kind of go hand in hand. All right. So the fourth M is master. All right. Master. This is the mastery stage. This is where you go beyond mimicking. You go beyond imitation. You go beyond the basics and you start refining your skills. You start personalizing things like your sales outreach and negotiating skills and how to build long-term relationships with carriers and with shippers. Get better at negotiating. Like I said, in this stage, this is where you start to become an expert in the freight brokerage field, in the freight brokerage industry. Okay. This stage typically falls somewhere between 6 and 18 months. Again, when I say you're an expert, I don't mean that you have 20 years of experience, but this is where you start to hone your expertise and you start to learn and be able to differentiate yourself with that knowledge that you gained. Okay. So again, the stage typically falls somewhere between 6 and 18 months. This is where we start getting into that mastery stage where you start mastering, right, some of the strategies and some of the tactics that are allowing you to scale and grow your business. And then the fourth M is called multiply. As you can imagine, if we're going to scale, we need to multiply our efforts. And so this stage is all about scaling up your operations for growth. What you're looking to do here is you're looking to build systems and processes that allow you to serve more customers and allow you to serve more carriers, right? This is where you hire and then teach and coach other people to do what you've already done, right? This is where you take that knowledge and what you've executed on and the success you had, you put it into a system And then it allows you to replicate your efforts through the efforts of others that work for you. For example, that might be in the sales department. It might be in operations. It might be in finance. It might be, in marketing. You might have an agent business model where you execute that. You might have a W-2, more of a call center model where you execute that. But that's the mastery stage, okay? Or that's the multiply stage. I misspoke here, okay? So again, those are the 4 stages really quick, but listen, lean in really quick here, okay? Very important. The first M is model. The second M is mimic. The third M is master. And the fourth M is multiply, all right? So again, this is kind of a crawl, walk, run, fly type strategy, if you can kind of visualize that, right? And it's designed to help you navigate starting and growing a highly profitable freight broker business. So listen, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker and you're just in those early startup stages, right? You need some help. You're looking for a roadmap. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Trained over 10,000 students, had that program for over 15 years, and we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. That is well known to be the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker, freight agent training program. Now, if you're a little bit beyond the startup stage and you're looking for more specific help as it relates to freight broker sales and how to get shippers and how to use sales strategies to scale your business, then you're definitely going to want to check out my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program. That program, again, is where I take this piece of my brain, I transplant it into your head, and I teach you all my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and my entire system that allowed me to do over $200 million as a freight broker. And that's all in a coaching and mentoring program. If you guys want more information about that, you can get on the wait list at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Listen, if you enjoyed this training, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button, comment below. And if you're sticking around for the Q&A, I'll be with you in just 1 minute. Okay, cool. Very cool, guys. Thank you so much. I was a little jumpy in that one, bounced around a little bit. I apologize. I changed the topic at the last second because I really, really wanted to share this with you guys. So I might have been a little bit off my normal beaten path and a little bit off my rhythm, but I think you get the point, right? The point is that if you want to build a $50 million freight brokerage or plus, you're going to have to take the crawl, walk, run, fly type approach. And that I think is best understood through this 4 M's, which is model, mimic, master, and multiply. Okay. Hold up on your questions until we're ready to go. But if you guys enjoyed this, let me know in the comments, 0 to 10. Well, 1 to 10. If I'm horrible, give me a 1. If you learned anything, you thought this had any value, hit me up with a 10. Anything give me an honest review. Anything less than an 8, just do me a favor and try to give me some feedback, right? Try to give me some feedback on how I can make it better. I'd love to hear your feedback. Again, I don't need you to placate my ego. I just want honest feedback. All right. So hit me up in the comments. And then after we do this, we'll jump into some Q&A. And again, you got to hold your questions until I say go. All right. So hold on your questions. Yeah, this can be a lot of people, when they hear this 4 M's for the first time, they really starts to sink in how you go from no experience to building a highly successful business. And it's a process. You don't go from just getting your freight broker authority to doing 10 million or $50 million a year in sales. It doesn't work that way. It's an evolution. It's a process. And that's the reason why I really like this, the way it's laid out, right? And then this whole framework, I like to teach in frameworks, right? So this model, mimic, master, and multiply is really a great way to think about how to start and grow a highly profitable freight broker business. So thank you so much. Good. All right. Yeah, it is a little bit broad. It's not deep down. We're not diving deep down into the weeds because it's more of a strategy than a tactic, right? This is more strategy than tactic. This is where you need to understand the different phase of the business that you're in and then where you need to go next. Okay. So it's designed to paint you a picture as more of a framework then again, it's not tactical. Hey, what are the steps for setting up my brokerage with the FMCSA, or how exactly do I do a cold call, or, give me some negotiating tips. I mean, it's not that. Those are very tactical. This is much more strategic in nature, and that's the way it was designed to be, right? So maybe what I'll do is in future, I'll take each one of these and break them down, and we'll get a little bit more in depth. I mean, that's kind of my plan here. We'll go into the modeling stage and we'll really kind of hone in on that and how to do that. Maybe in the mimic stage, we'll kind of hone in on that a little bit more, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my plan. So hope it helps. All right, cool. Good feedback, guys. Thank you so much. Speaking really fast today. Sorry, Anthony. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I felt a little bit nervous because I switched the training last second, and then I had the tech issues. And so you're probably right. I'm probably talking a little bit fast. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate that. All right, so who's got questions? Questions about today's training, questions about freight broker sales, questions about marketing, questions about startup, whatever it is related to starting and growing a highly profitable freight broker business, let me know. Hit me up in the comments and we'll go from there. All right. Kanu asks, how do I get employed as a freight agent living abroad? Number one, get trained. Okay. I'm actually going to becoming a freight agent abroad is no different than becoming a freight agent if you're based here in the United States, right? There's really no difference. I mean, you may have, if you have some language barrier where you're depending upon what your language skills are, right? Your ability to communicate, because if you're an agent, you're probably going to be calling clients in the United States. And so you're going to have to be able to communicate effectively, but it doesn't mean you have to have perfect English. Trust me, I have tons of students who English is not their first language, who have went on to build successful businesses, whether they speak Spanish, or whether they speak, some sort of European dialect, or whether they're speaking Indian, or whether there's, bunch of different languages and geographies where people have done that successfully, including, Europe, right? Including abroad, right? So yeah, so you're going to want to, I'm going to direct you, Kanu. I'm going to direct you to my Freight Broker Bootcamp blog. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/blog. And then from there, I want you to search the term in my blog, get hired. And what'll happen is it'll bring up an entire framework, an entire training, an entire video I did on how to get hired as a freight agent with no experience. Follow that roadmap. Okay. So I hope that helps. Good question. Thank you. I think if that will do a lot more justice than me trying to regurgitate it here. Okay. So I hope that helps. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm happy you're here. Thanks. Rudy asks, how long does it take to get paid from shippers? Is it right away or com check, deposit, transfer? Okay. So when you're getting paid by shippers, if you are a broker getting paid by shippers, typically shippers are going to pay you one of two ways. They're going to send you a check, or they're going to send you an ACH of some sort, right? Like a bank wire, right? Those are typically the most common ways that you are going to be paid by a shipper. All right. So just know that when you as a broker are getting paid by a shipper, it's either going to be a check or an ACH or some sort of bank wire. Now, how quickly they pay you varies. On average, you're probably going to be somewhere between the 30 and 60 day mark. Some shippers do not pay for 45 to 60 days. That's the way they pay. You have to accept that if you're going to do business with them, and you need to be able to cash flow that in order for it to make sense. Some shippers pay right on time at 30 days. Other shippers will pay early for a discount. For example, it's called a 1% net 10. Some shippers have a program like this. Some companies have a program like this where if you give them a 1% discount on the invoice, they'll pay you in 10 days, right? So it really varies, but on average, it's probably going to fall somewhere between 30 and 60 days. Your goal is to get as close to you as you can to 30 days. And if you can ever get a client that's willing to give you a 1% net 10, take it and pay, take a 1% discount for the 10-day cash flow. Okay. So I hope that helps. Good question. Very good question. Thanks, Rudy. Ricky, I have a possible customer. He mentioned competitors and their prices. Should I ask him what a good price or shoot my offer from the get-go? Well, if you want to feel him out, if he mentioned that there's competitors, you might ask him, So if you've already sourced some other companies in this lane, what is your target rate? Right? So maybe you can ask that. It's probably not a bad ask, but you're going to want to add the caveat, and you're going to want to make sure that they understand that you're not always going to be the cheapest, right? Matter of fact, my brokerage, I was rarely, if ever, the cheapest. I didn't sell on price, right? And so, yeah, there's pros and cons to that. Asking for the target rate will give you an idea, especially when you're newer and you're just doing freight quotes, because the last thing you want to do is come in 30, 40, 50% more, unless you can offer something 30, 40, 50% better, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair ask if they've brought that up to you. Just say, so you've already sourced some other providers here. So what's your target rate? They may not give it to you. They may say, well, just give me a rate, and then you come back. Or they may say, yeah, we're looking for X. Right. And then at that point, maybe that's where you address the price component and just say, hey, listen, Ricky, I'm going to do my best to try to get as close to that rate as I can, but I'm going to be very upfront with you. I'm rarely, if ever, the cheapest. So if being the cheapest is a requirement, and that's the only thing you guys are focused on, I may not be a good fit. And if they say, no, we're really focused on relationship and we're focused on service, and no, as long as you're close, I mean, you can get a read, right? So it's giving you some buying signals. So I hope that helps you navigate that a little bit. But Ricky, we should talk about this Wednesday on the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. All right. Christopher asks, hello, I have a new brokerage already authorized with the FMCSA. What's the next step after getting DAT load board? I have e-capital factoring, everything in place to take a customer. Well, if there's nothing left to do but start getting customers, it's time to pick up the phone. You're probably going to have to make a list of potential shippers based upon whatever niche you've decided to go after. So you need to find a niche. Then you're going to make a list of those customers. And then you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to start contacting them via phone or email or LinkedIn. So at that point, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you're going to learn a lot, depending upon your background. Maybe if you have a little bit of sales background and you've got some good habits, maybe you'll be able to pick that up fairly quickly. If not, this is where you're going to learn a lot about finding, connecting, and engaging with people in your target market. Okay. You're going to learn about cold calling. You're going to learn about cold emailing. You're going to learn about using LinkedIn. And just the caveat there is perfect, because that's why I put together the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program. I put it together because most people don't have any clue or a lot of experience in getting customers. So that Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, again, is an 8-week live coaching program where I personally teach and mentor you how to get shippers in any market condition, whether the market's up or the market's down, whether you're new or whether you're experienced. Okay. So you can get on the wait list and check that out. All the details are there, and then you'll get notified whenever new spots open up. Okay. So I hope that helps. Brova asks, how would you recommend freight brokering cars? Starting out, leads good to buy. All right. So if you're doing auto transport, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not a big fan of auto transport. Okay. Do people make money doing it? Sure. Here's the problem. There's really two types of customers when you're doing auto transport. If you're dealing with snowbirds, right? People who live in the Northeast who relocate to Florida every winter and then go back to New York or the Northeast every summer, those are consumers, right? Those types of auto transports can be very challenging to identify who your audience is unless you know how to do online advertising on Google or Facebook or other, or you work with somebody who knows how to do the online advertising and they sell you leads, right? So they'll sell you leads of people that are looking for quotes on auto transport from point A to point B, right? I'm not a big fan of that. People make money doing it. Get me wrong. I just don't like it as a business model for scale. I just don't like it. Okay. Because the problem is the customer there is typically a one-time customer, or maybe you'll get 1 or 2 shipments a year. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin where most freight brokerages work. They work for businesses. They work with businesses that have recurring revenue, where they might be doing shipments every single week or every single day. And so where the lifetime value of a snowbird that does auto transport might be a few $100 or maybe even $1,000, the lifetime value of a commercial shipper, right, that's doing one load a week or one load a day could be $50,000 a year, or it could be $500,000 or more per year. So do you see the difference? I'm not a big fan of auto transport, but yes, you can buy leads for auto transport. Now, you got to have the money to invest in them. And then obviously you got to convert those into clients. So if that's the model you want to go, it's worked for others. I'm sure it'll work for you. I don't really teach that model much because it's not a model that really scales, right? The advantage to that model is you do need to learn how to sell, but it's not cold calling, right? So that's why some people are attracted to it. So hope that helps. Cynthia asks, with the new administration, do you see the transportation industry getting better or worse? As a general rule, I see it getting better. I think the economy is going to get better. It's already showing some signs. I think that this administration is a little bit more business friendly. So yeah, I think that will be there. So yeah, I think that there's an advantage to this administration versus maybe the previous administration, which was a lot more regulatory, right? So yeah, I think that there could be some advantages. Betty asks, I was reading a carrier contract. Are we considered property brokers? Do I need to put my MC number on a carrier contract? Where does the contract come from? Is it just a model that everyone uses? Okay, a lot of questions there, Betty. All right, so you as a freight broker with an MC number, with a motor carrier brokerage MC number, you are actually classified as what's called a property broker, okay? So property broker and freight broker are synonymous. Don't get confused by that. That's number one. Do I have to put my MC number on my carrier contract? Yes, you if you have a carrier broker agreement that you're using, you're going to want to include your your broker name, your address, your MC number, and then you're going to want to also make sure that the carrier includes their carrier name, their address, and their MC number. That's what binds you two together and identifies you as one as a broker, one as a carrier. All right. Where do you get the contracts from? Well, we have contracts inside of Freight Broker Bootcamp. If you become a Freight Broker Bootcamp student, we have broker carrier contracts, we have broker shipper contracts, we have broker agent contracts, we have all those contracts are built in there. Now, just understand something. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. The contracts that I provide are templates for you to be able to customize to fit your needs. There is no one size fits all freight broker carrier agreement. Okay. Just that doesn't exist. Everybody's needs and wants are a little bit different. Everybody's risk tolerances are a little bit different. Right. And so, yeah, as a startup, I think that those will be more than enough to kind of get you started. So I hope that helps. You can, if you want those agreements, you can be a part of Freight Broker Bootcamp and you get all the training, plus you get the agreements and all the forms. So that might help. Good question, Betty. Thank you. TMP Hustle, what is the best advice for working with prospects that are moving freight coming across border like Mexico and Canada? What is your best advice? Well, if you're trying to deal with cross-border freight, you've got to identify shippers that have that need, right? And that can sometimes be challenging. How do you identify if a customer imports or exports goods? So you're going to have to specialize your niche, and you're going to have to specialize where you find your shippers specific to those niches. So if it's Canada, Mexico, cross-border, right? US to Canada or US to Mexico, Mexico to US, you're going to have to find those lists of companies so that you can reach out to them, right? It doesn't do any good reaching out to a company here in the US that doesn't export their goods to Mexico or Canada. So you're going to have to peel the onion back a little bit further. So that's step one. Step two, you're going to have to understand how to rate and source carriers for cross-border freight and the process associated with that. There's a couple of extra steps, right? You've got obviously you have the cross-border component, right? So, you've got all the things that are associated with the export component, which you as the broker don't need to handle, right? But the shipper will have some sort of a customs broker that will handle all that paperwork, but you're going to need to know where to route it through, and you're going to need to make sure, that the drivers all have everything that they need in order to cross border. So there's a little bit of added complexity there from the perspective of quoting freight and sourcing carriers. But here's the cool thing. Here's what I love about your question. What I love about your question is it's niching down, right? It adds a little bit of complexity, but because of that complexity, you're going to have less competition, okay? So if you can develop those skills, if you can develop that framework and understanding, it could be an amazing niche for you to pursue. Good question. Thank you. Christopher, looking for paperwork for pickup and drop off. Shippers will provide you a bill of lading. They'll provide a bill of lading to the driver, and you, as far as the pickup and drop off, will get it from your TMS. That'll be a rate confirmation that you'll end up sending to your carrier, and that typically comes from your TMS. Hope that helps. Okay. First timer, I'm struggling with my intro cold calls. Are you able to help me? Can you give me a quick breakdown as to what you would say as a freight broker? Sure. I'm going to tell you what I wouldn't say first. And then that's probably going to shock you. And then at that point, we're probably going to have to dive in a little bit deeper behind the scenes. And maybe you can go into some of my other YouTube channel videos and stuff in order to learn a little bit more. Or maybe you're going to sign up for the wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. So here's the struggle. The reason why most new freight brokers and freight agents struggle is because they sound like everybody else. Shippers have heard these generic cold call pitches hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And so what's happening is, as soon as you start saying one of these old school freight broker cold call pitches, it triggers a negative response. Once they recognize the pattern and the cadence, all of a sudden it triggers a negative response, and you fall into the bucket of just being some freight jockey that they don't want to talk to. So my strategy and my entire theory behind this is you have to be different. You have to sound different. You can't sound like everybody else. So the way you do that is to create a compelling sales hook. So here's the 3 scripts you don't want to use. Hey, Dennis, we've got trucks in your area. I was just wondering, if we might be able to help you with some of your freight or some facsimile thereof, right? That's number 1. Avoid that like the plague. They've heard it 1,000 times. Nobody wants to hear it. Number 2, hey, I'm a freight broker. We can save you money on your freight. Can we do some freight quotes? Again, now you're painting yourself in the corner, trying to be the cheapest, and that's never a good place to go, all right? And number 3, hey, we're a freight broker. We've got access to over 1,000 trucks or 10,000 trucks or whatever they say. I was wondering if we could help you out with some of your loads, right? So those are 3 very generic type of scripts that you will hear all over the place. And the problem with those scripts is that shippers have heard them over and over and over again, okay? And so they then trigger a negative response. Whereas if you use a compelling sales hook, if you use something that's unique, you're able to differentiate yourself, right? The way you do that is by gathering some sales intelligence about the prospect, about the company, about the industry, and then leveraging that in a unique approach to connect, to get their attention, right? Because again, the first 5 or 10 seconds of a cold call is the hardest part of the whole gig, right? It's getting their attention and making a good first impression. So I'm going to give you just a simple example of one. Let's say, for example, I was going to reach out to XYZ widget company. And before the call, I looked up their website. I looked up the product. I did a little bit of look on their press releases and their news. I looked for who the shipping manager was on LinkedIn. I found out a little bit about him or her. And I took that 2 or 3 or 4 minutes worth of research and I turned it into a compelling sales hook. And here's what it would be. If I saw, for example, a piece of news or a press release that XYZ widget company had just purchased ABC widget company, one of their competitors, this is just a really easy hypothetical. What I would do is I would use that as my hook. I would first reach out to them and congratulate them. And then I would use that as a way to differentiate myself. So I might say, Joe, I just wanted to reach out, congratulate you guys. I heard about your acquisition of ABC Widgets. Congrats. I'm sure that's exciting for you. Let me ask you a question. I know from past experience that when companies merge and when they acquire other companies, one of the biggest struggles they have is merging the logistics and supply chain part of each of their businesses. So I'm curious, how are you handling that? Do you see how that's different? Do you see how that doesn't sound like everybody else? Do you see how that's much more compelling? Do you see how that shows my expertise? Do you see how that shows my knowledge about the company? That's just one example. But if you want to learn how to be different, that's why you get on the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator waitlist, because that's the theme. Be different. Stop sounding like everybody else. Okay? So I hope that helps. I hope that was a good, quick example of how you could do that. Okay? Good question. Oscar asks, what's the overview? What is your overview in regards to the difference on why shipper or customer will contract a freight broker and not a carrier directly? Very, very simple. And if I had a nickel for every time I got this question in the last 20 years, I'd have a lot of freaking nickels. Okay. So let me explain it. It all comes down to one word: time. Time. So, two scenarios. 90+% of motor carriers own less than 10 trucks. I don't know if you realize that, but 90+% of motor carriers own less than 10 trucks. They're very small businesses and they have limited capacity because of the amount of trucks and drivers they have. So, scenario A, a shipper can try to communicate with hundreds of different trucking companies, dozens or maybe hundreds of different trucking companies in order to cover their loads because of the limited capacity from each carrier. They might have one truck, they might have 3 trucks, they might have 5 trucks, right? And if those trucks are full and the shipper calls them, then they can't haul any loads because their trucks are all full. So that's scenario A. They got to manage a large group of carriers because each carrier only controls a small pool of capacity. Or you got scenario B, where you can call a freight broker and they have exponential capacity because they might have relationships with hundreds of carriers or thousands of carriers. They might have access to a large carrier database through different load boards and different sources that they have. And so what happens is they outsource that to the broker to do all that for them. Not only do brokers source the carrier, they negotiate with the carrier, they dispatch the carrier, and they track the carrier from cradle to grave, from pickup through to delivery. And any problems that happen along the way, the broker takes care of it, as opposed to the shipper who just gave it to the broker, checked it off his list, and moved on. So it all comes down to one word, and that is time. Time is money, okay? Not only that, but you also have expertise, right? Freight brokers are experts in rating and sourcing capacity based upon their specific skill set or their specific niche. So I hope that helps. Okay. Could you do a live deep diving on covering your brokerage from fraud, including vetting carriers, what to put on rate confirmation? Yeah, I'll put that on the list. It might already be on the list. Yeah. So I'll do that, Rad. Okay, Kanu says, I've been applying for freight agent positions while living in Africa, but most brokers say it's only open to U.S. citizens. How can I overcome that? Well, I don't think the best way to do that is to apply to a job ad. If you're looking to get hired, applying to a job ad is the worst way to do it. Okay? The best way to do it is to find someone who has an agent program, and they're probably a smaller brokerage. Maybe they've only been in business for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 years, that are looking to scale, that are willing to pay you a straight commission if you can demonstrate that you can represent their company properly and that you have the skill set necessary to generate revenue, because every dollar of revenue you generate for yourself, you're also generating money for them. And it's on a straight contingency basis. They only pay you if you're profitable. So I wouldn't use job ads. That's your number one mistake. And you're probably also reaching out to larger companies, and they're probably not interested in that. The other thing is you got to legitimize yourself, meaning people are concerned with fraud, right? And the fact is there's more fraud internationally. There's more fraud going on internationally in the logistics and trucking space than anybody wants to admit. So the problem is they're concerned because they don't trust you. They're giving you the Heisman and they're pushing you off and they're pushing you away. But if you can develop a relationship, it's going to be even more important for you to develop a relationship than someone who's in the US, only because you are international and you add a level of risk. So that's my suggestion. Hope that helps. Watching out for carrier fraud. How can you watch out for carrier fraud? Make sure that you check the FMCSA and compare all of their information, their phone number, their address, their MC number, all of that information to the information that they're providing you over the phone or via email or through a contract. Okay, that's number one, right? You got to verify that. If the phone number on the FMCSA, when you go to validate them, is not the same as the phone number they're calling from you, then you want to put the brakes on really quick, call that main phone number and ask if this person is authorized as part of the company. If they're not, that'll catch a lot of them. You can also use software like Carrier 411. You can use software like Highway. You can use software like Carrier OK. Those are all vetting softwares that are designed to spot fraud. Okay. So there are software out there. I'd say much more affordable would be something like Carrier OK. There's also, I think, Carrier Assure, and there's also Highway. They're a little bit more expensive, but those are some of the softwares out there that will help you to try to identify potential fraud, opportunities, potential fraud in your vetting process. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Julie Savage asks, Dennis, I have a great start shipping my products. Okay. I would like to scale it upwards. What would be your suggestion in addition to cold calling and emailing? Do you have outreach system you would suggest? Okay. Let me read that again. I have great start shipping many products. Okay. I would like to scale upwards. And what would be your suggestion in addition to cold calling and email? Okay. So you're getting customers, your business is growing, but what strategies would I suggest beyond cold calling and cold emailing? I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. There's hundreds of millions of people on there. There are thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of manufacturers and shipping managers and logistics managers and warehouse managers. And it's an entire community of people that are sharing content, engaging with content, are looking for opportunities. They're looking for brokers, and if there's opportunities to start developing relationships with people in that community. So I love LinkedIn. Can I teach you how to do it here? No. But LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, set up a free profile, start building a network of people that are in and around logistics, including people in your niche. Start find and connect and engage with those people, start conversations through LinkedIn, and then convert those conversations offline. And just so you know, I've used LinkedIn to generate over $20 million in annual recurring revenue for my brokerage before I sold it. Okay. So LinkedIn works. I've had tons of students that have went on and used LinkedIn to get customers and grow their business. Okay. So it absolutely works. Matter of fact, here's the good news. The good news is if you join the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which I've been beating you over the head with, a bonus currently right now that if you join that, if you get an opportunity to join, I include what I call my no cold calling for freight brokers training system. And that is my LinkedIn and social selling system that teaches you how to find, connect, and engage with shippers on LinkedIn and convert them into clients. Okay. So that's a bonus that I'm included in that program right now. So you definitely want to get on the wait list for that. Okay. Glad to hear things are going well, Julie. Keep up the good work. Ricky says, what steps can I take if I fell under carrier fraud? Well, it's going to depend upon the circumstances, but yeah, either the authorities like the FBI, state police, or possibly a lawyer if it's going to go civil. So I don't know. It's very difficult to answer that question because I don't know the specifics, but it's probably going to be some law enforcement, or potentially a lawyer if it's civil. But if it's fraud, civil, I don't know. I don't know how civil is going to go if it's really fraud. If people are just not paying you like a shipper, or if something like that, maybe that would be after the fact. But if it's really truly fraud, you're probably going to go law enforcement. Carl asks, how much of a difference does having contingent cargo insurance make when trying to get loads from shippers? With some shippers, it's an absolute requirement, particularly large shippers. With many shippers, it's not a requirement at all. It's particularly small to medium-sized shippers. So if your focus is on smaller shippers, you won't run into it nearly as much. If you're going after tier one, big multi-billion-dollar companies like Pepsi and Coke and US Steel and Procter & Gamble and Unilever and all these big companies and brands, it's absolutely going to be a must. Okay? So I hope that helps. Ania, be specific. Sign non-solicit or no. Are you talking about as an employee? Are you talking about as an agent? Are you talking about broker to carrier? Be more specific. Share that with me. I'll try to answer that. Maybe we'll make that the last question for today because we're getting close to an hour here. So give me that feedback, Ania. Ania, is it Ania Malek? Tell me what you, so I'm going to give you about another 60 seconds to respond. And then if you respond, agent. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So should you sign a non-solicit as a freight agent? I guess it depends upon how it's worded. If they are asking you to sign a no solicit or no back solicitation on your customers as an agent, absolutely not. If they're asking you to sign a non-solicit or no back solicitation on the customers that they have, then that might be different. But you shouldn't even know who those customers are. So the reality is you really don't want to sign a non-solicit as an agent. As a matter of fact, you should never sign a non-solicit as an agent where they're telling you that you can't solicit your own customers if you decide to leave. So never sign a non-compete or no solicit as an agent, particularly if they're focused in on trying to prevent you from leaving or to try to prevent you from calling your customers on the back end. So do not sign that. Absolutely not. Julie asks, would you do an advanced FBA class for those that have completed the first class? Julie, it's interesting that you asked that. I am toying with the idea of creating what I call a freight broker growth accelerator, which would be the next step up from the sales accelerator. So I'm toying with that idea now. It's a lot of work. So I don't know, maybe I'm toying with the idea, but I love the fact that you asked the question and I appreciate it. It tells me that you have gotten a lot of great value from all the trainings that you've been through, because you've already went through my boot camp. You've already went through my sales accelerator. Your business is growing. And so you want to grow and help you grow beyond those things. So I totally appreciate the question. And if I do, I promise you will know, right? You will definitely know. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay, so they want it on their customers. Yeah, but you don't know who their customers are. So you shouldn't have to sign that because they shouldn't share with you their customers. If they don't want, because here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. You have your own customers and they have their own customers. And then you decide to leave and you don't know who their customers are. Okay. And you go out and start your own deal. You go become your own broker or start an agent for someone else. And you start calling customers and you didn't know, and you might be in violation because you didn't know who their customers were. You don't need to know who their customers are. You don't want to know who their customers are. Tell them not to share that information with you. Okay. They shouldn't share their customers with you. Why would they? So I understand why they're asking, but it also puts you in a position where you might violate that if you were to leave and then start calling customers and not knowing who their customers were. So you might end up prospecting and trying to do business with somebody that puts you in violation. So my answer to that is, why do they need that? Just don't share the customers with you and there shouldn't be an issue. So hope that helps, Anya. All right, Julie, I'll definitely work on it, okay? Listen, guys, thank you so much. This has been a great session. You had great questions. I hope you guys got great value. Again, if you're just getting started as a freight broker and you're looking for startup help, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. If you're looking for more sales help, how to get shippers, looking for a coach and a mentor to help you navigate the sales system and ramp that up so you can get customers in any market conditions, up or down, you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Get on the wait list, and we'll see you guys next week on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks all. Appreciate you.